Hello and welcome to the Trust and Influence in B2B podcast. I'm your host, Joel Harrison. Episodes are released weekly and covering all aspects of trust in B2B. It's a fascinating topic and I hope you can subscribe. Today we're going to talk about one of the most compelling and ongoing challenges in B2B marketing, and that's what's a multifaceted thing. It's around creativity, it's around standing out and being different. And these are some of those ongoing challenges that marketers face. It's often a controversial topic. So something I'm really fascinated to talk about, and who better talk about it with than Brian Macreadie of Addleshaw Goddard, who's a very well-known face in B2B marketing. He's a multi-award-winning marketer over many, many years, and he's demonstrated a commitment to creativity and doing exciting things in B2B marketing for so long. It's someone I greatly like. So Brian, how are you doing?
What an intro. You should be a publicist. Thanks for having me on the show, Joel. It's lovely to see you, man.
Well, thank you for inviting me. If you're listening to this audio, you can't see we're actually in Addleshaw Goddard's tremendously impressive offices right in the centre of the City of London, right next to the Bank of England, literally. And I was a bit knocked out when I walked in the door, to be honest. It's Brian was explaining it's an old banking hall, wasn't it? So where people used to come in and pay their money in from their big business ventures and things like that.
Yeah, from the heyday of the city, 1834 this building dates back to, and it's been modernised. We haven't been in it that long, but yeah, the banking hall, it's might not be thanked for saying this, but it's like Hogwarts on steroids when you walk in. I think it's just absolutely stunning.
But it is. But to be clear, if Hogwarts is kind of wizardy, whereas this downstairs is all clean marble, all Portland stone, huge atriums, old clock, and you're up here in this room with we're joking. This is the classic fireside chat. I apologise again if you're listening to audio. We are sat next to a 1800s, 1700s fireplace, which is very beautiful. So great setting, fantastic place to talk about. Really impressed by the whole kind of, it's just the grandeur of the whole thing. So we're going to talk today, Brian, you've been involved, as say, in the B2B Marketing Awards and other awards programs, although they're not as good, obviously. You run a number of awards for kind of creative work over the years to enable it to stand out in a highly competitive legal market, both here in the City of London, but also around the world, in the UK and around the world. Your recent campaign called Flourish in the City involved you being the first ever legal partner of the RHS Chelsea Flower Show. And you've done all sorts of activations around that before that since then. It's kind of snowballed or blossomed, should we say.
Boom.
There we go. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about your history, we're going to talk about creativity, and it just demonstrates the fact that you really broke the mould by going to Chelsea, which is corporate hospitality. Is obviously something that's traditionally wrapped up around things like sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes strays into the arts, but never before Chelsea Flower Show. And if you're not based in the UK or you're not familiar with the Chelsea Flower Show, it's an extraordinary event down in Chelsea, to suggest, where hundreds of lots of growers come together. You create these incredible gardens that exist for 2 weeks, and then they deconstruct them.
They're only there for a week, and they're only allowed on site a couple of weeks before, and it has to be all turned back to turf and an original park the week afterwards. But I think there's about 34 gardens this year, and it really is the Olympics of the gardening world. They have to make these gardens look as though they have always been there. It's quite, if you haven't been, it's quite a spectacle. It's quite something. We can come back to a bit more detail, I know, but it's an amazing event.
Well, so it's not what I was doing. You're breaking the mold, thinking different, standing out in an environment where people aren't used to it, and you're talking about how popular it's been as a venue to talk to clients. We'll come back to that. But things to learn from this episode, I should have gotten to this earlier on. So we're not just going to talk about Brian's amazing track record as a marketer or have a kind of a matey chat. We're going to talk about some very serious B2B marketing issues, which is things like how to activate a brand idea end-to-end across event, experience, out-of-home, digital and content. So that's a classic integrated multi-channel campaign. Why face-to-face client experiences still matter, perhaps more than ever, in a long-cycle relationship-driven B2B sector. How brand and ABM can be designed to reinforce each other rather than compete. And which is something, there's that kind of a brand and demand schism at the moment going on. And what does it take to make the case internally for long-term, distinctive, bolder marketing investment, which is probably the core topic of all this, right?
Yep.
Lots to dig into there. So, Brian, let's before we start, tell us a bit about you as a marketer and your history and your track record and things like that. You didn't start as a legal marketer, did you, for a start? I know.
No, so I think this is my 30th anniversary this year as a B2B marketer, and I started out in the world of telecommunications. Worked for some big brands like Reliance in India and AT&T in the States. I became the marketing director for media and sport at Getty Images, so the world's largest photographic agency, which was incredible. And then moved over to the law, and I found a really happy home. So I've been doing this for about half of my career now, working in legal marketing. And it's way cooler than people would give it credit for. So,
well, but this is it. But you very much the flag bearer for creativity across all sorts of B2B. But the legal sector, until about 10, 12 years ago, always seemed to be a bit of a backwater in terms of marketing generally, but creativity specifically, right? So it's quite interesting that you found a home here.
Yeah, I've been asked about this quite a lot, and I think one of the attractions for me about going into the legal sector was I did feel that it was a bit dry, the communications and the marketing. But I think as an industry, it's the polar opposite. One of the things we look for in creativity is try and find the emotion. What's the emotional experience of the clients? Try and imbue your communication with some level of feeling. And when you see clients of a law firm and they may be going through a £300 million dispute, or they may be making a $7 billion acquisition, or they might be merging with a key rival, there is emotion writ large across that. You can see it when you meet clients. They're making bet the ranch decisions on a daily basis. And I thought, wow, this is a really quite interesting, high stakes profession, and the marketing wasn't doing justice to that. So one of my attractions, I just thought, I'm going to have a go and see if we can liven this up a little bit. And I've been very fortunate to work with a bunch of lawyers that are very up for that. And, so over the years, we've been doing everything from writing poetry about the law. We've haunted clients. We've created the Bermuda Triangle of contract law. We've tried everything, and it's really worked. We launched a computer game a year ago for technology lawyers, and we've just proven that it's a business or a category like any other.
So if you can be creative in the law, you can be creative.
100%, absolutely, yeah. And we're trying to prove that daily, and it's fun. It's really fun.
It's also just for us for a second, not to ask you to do an advert, but just to tell us a bit about, just position Addleshaw Goddard. Tell us about the firm, how many people, where's it based, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we're an international law firm. We're in 21 markets around the world, across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. We're sitting in our headquarters in the City of London. Just a few facts. So we were the UK Law Firm of the Year, both 2025 and 2024. We act for actually a better part of about 6,000 really well-known, respected organisations, companies you've all heard of, about half the FTSE 100, actually just over half. And we're what's called a full-service law firm, so we pretty much do any B2B work that they need us to do. I think we're ranked in 196 areas of business law, everything. Financial regulation, mergers and acquisitions, real estate investments, you name it. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell. And it's a really good culture to be a marketer, actually. They're very innovative, ambitious bunch.
Okay, so it's great to have some context, Brian.
Yeah.
I'll do that again as well. So it's great to have some context, Brian, really helpful. So let's kind of go back a step then and talk about the kind of the problem that you were trying to solve. You told me when we're kind of talking about this conversation in advance, you talked about competing law firms collectively publish over 500,000 pieces of content per year. What was the strategic problem you were trying to address? I mean, that's always that sounds like a problem, right? But this is what you were trying to find a different approach to that, presumably.
Yeah. So specifically about our Flourish in the City campaign. So I guess there were two challenges which I suspect many marketers can relate to. One is just intense competition, like as in other B2B categories, the law. There are hundreds of law firms out there. We are probably in this group of about 20 fairly major firms that compete with each other on a regular basis. And as you say, they are generating a huge amount of newsletters, social posts, articles, white papers, webinars, events. So the competition for attention and consideration is quite dramatic. And we needed to stand out from the crowd. And particularly in our home market of London, which is one of the most fiercely contested legal markets on the planet. It's probably the biggest legal market in the world. And so given this is our headquarters market, we need to kind of get our elbows out a little bit and just show how strong we are here in this market. So that was one challenge. And then there was a second thing that's imperative in the legal sector. It's probably the most trust-based purchase in any B2B category. It's a relationship-driven sector. You know, if you're about to ask somebody to float you on the stock market, you need to know who they are and trust them. If you know, you're a founder of a business and you need to protect your business in courts and, you know, defend your rights, you want somebody that you know is going to trust you. You don't just look at the first person on Google and hire them. So it's very much a relationship-based sector, and we wanted to drive more and more in-person contact with existing clients and future clients. So those were the two things that were at the heart of this campaign. They were the catalyst for trying something new.
And it's great to get that link to trust established very early on, of course, you know, because, you know, it's trust in all aspects of B2B, but like you say, the interpersonal nature of professional services means it's as a particular kind of poignancy or focus, doesn't it? So
yeah, it really does. I know we've all seen the research now that most purchases go to somebody that a buyer has in mind at the outset. So being top of mind, first in mind, is paramount for all marketers, right? But I think it's particularly so in sectors like the legal sector or other sectors where there's a really long purchase life cycle, because somebody may not have a construction dispute for years and years and years. You need to be top of mind when it eventually happens. You can't nurture somebody to have a dispute next week, or you can't nurture somebody to want to go and form a joint venture in 2 weeks' time. You just got to be there when the need arises, which means top of mind awareness and familiarity and trust are pretty much essential in this category. So yeah, that was at the heart of this.
It's good. Obviously, music to my ears, given the title of this podcast. So let's then. So this is you set the scene. Trust is important. Noisy language, loads of noisy market, loads of content being created. Important to be known and trusted at the outset. So this led you towards the RHS Chelsea Flower Show, and as discussed earlier, it's one of the most iconic events of the London kind of summer season. It's very kind of, I don't want to say establishment, but it's established. It's very long. It's long standing, isn't it? Right? You know, it's been going for I don't know, decades. You probably know.
I should know that. I know the RHS have been going for over 100 years.
Right.
You know, but yeah, it is an absolute fixture in the London calendar, right? You know, Henley.
Yeah, Wimbledon, the first cricket test of the summer.
Yeah,
there's a kind of
still important. There's a series of them, and Chelsea's the official kickoff. So,
but people of a certain age, a certain affluence would want to be a part of it in some way. RHS, by the way, a B2B marketing is full of acronyms. So RHS is the Royal Horticultural Society. Just again for those of you
who are a gardening charity. You know, they're a not-for-profit, and you know, and that's a brilliant thing for us to do. We know all of our contributions are going back to do some good in society. I'll come back to that later, I know, but
and it is a great place. Having been only once myself, but it is a great place to go, have a glass of something bubbly and probably some scones and cream, and then wander around in the hopefully glorious sunshine. Not always glorious.
In a nice frock, Joel, I hope, nice hat. Look, it's the start of the season.
What I do at the time is my own business, but it's just a beautiful thing to do. So 160,000 people attending, politicians, business leaders, VIPs in the mix. So we looked at it like that. It looks quite a logical choice, right, to do that.
Yep.
But tell us what it was beyond. We're not being logical necessarily here. We're being emotional. So tell us why it was you chose the RHS Chelsea Flower Show.
So you're right. When we want to build a brand, and back to that client contact, we knew we wanted to do something that would give us ample opportunity for client experiences and client contact. So an event-based sponsorship was perfect for that. If you want to build that brand, we all want to try and be as visible as possible. And in London, Chelsea is really iconic across the whole of the UK. It's televised on the BBC. I think it's on the BBC 14 times in a week as a show. So, you know, it attracts the right kind of demographic of people for us. So there were all sorts of reasons why it was kind of tick. But there were a few additional things. Don't get us wrong. We do a huge amount of sport work. We've actually just signed a sponsorship agreement with the Scottish Open, the Genesis Scottish Open. So, you know, sports are a big deal for us too, but Chelsea adds something unique, and it's really inclusive in that sense, that it appeals to a slightly broader base. So there were all these things we were looking for, but the real icing on the cake was we went and had a meeting with the RHS. They're a charity. They work in the world of gardening. They're bloody nice people, right? The most wonderful people to spend time with. It's really wholesome. But there was this really lovely moment where we learn, you know, as a business, we want to help our clients grow. We want to help our clients flourish in the city, around the UK, around the world. And we met with them, and they're dedicated to inspiring everybody to grow too. That's the charity's mission in life. And instantly there was this absolute genuine overlap in our narrative that they want to inspire people to grow. We want to help people flourish and grow. And it just felt really authentic straight away that the message worked. And from that point on, our board were in, our executive team were in, the partnership we're in. It was, let's go, let's commit. And we've gone for it in a big way. First ever official partner.
The thing that I keep coming back to about this is that I, rightly or wrongly, I think about sponsorship, B2B, particularly about sport. It seems to be, I've not got any data to support this, but perhaps it's about visibility. It's all about F1. It's about Premier League football. It's about rugby. It's about golf. And there's a kind of inherently a macho environment around this. And this is the opposite. And I think that's just a lovely, it takes a level of confidence to be able to do that, to not follow the herd and to not do something which is, and that, there are perhaps what we might have been comfortable with as some of those values perhaps 10 years ago in terms of that hyper competitiveness, that patriarchal kind of environment. We're less comfortable today. And I think it's brilliant you've taken the charge with finding that property. It seems ridiculous no one's been using it before, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, we couldn't believe it that no one had done it before. And we did a classic B2B marketing thing. We did a pilot, we did a test, and we went along. We took some clients a few years ago, and a really mixed, diverse group. And to a person, everybody adored it. Quite helpful that Princess Anne popped by and had a glass of champers with us while we stood there, just completely randomly. It was quite a nice moment, but and the feedback was incredible, and everybody loved it. And we found there was this deeply human thing where, I'm not sure if this is a British thing or a global thing, but people just love gardens. A lot of our clients are slightly, they're not kids, they're mature adults, and a lot of people have gardens, and either they're keen gardeners or they like looking at gardens. And so it was just this really human touch point that everybody could get behind, and sitting there, having a lovely conversation when you're surrounded by nasturtiums and anemones and stuff and foxgloves. It's just honestly, it's a lovely thing on a summer's evening. It's beautiful.
I can imagine it takes you away from that all the stress of normal life and puts you in a different place. So, and that was you did that last year.
Yeah. So last year was our first official year as a partner, and in the next week it's our year 2 starts.
And we were discussing earlier on, you were there yesterday and trying to battle the hailstorms, and the gardeners are all trying to kind of protect their plants from the hail.
Yeah, so it's really wonderful when you kind of get a glimpse into some other professions, because we're so focused on our marketing world. Yeah, so we did a sponsored walk from our office in Bank to Chelsea on Tuesday night for charity, a whole bunch of us, and we walked via all of London's beautiful parks and green spaces and had a pint in Chelsea because we were not to. And then yesterday we were on site. Last meeting, the RHS and our gardeners before the show commences on Monday morning. And it was a classic British late spring day where we had 2 lightning storms, 3 bouts of sunshine and 3 hailstorms in the space of about 3 or 4 hours. And there was one particular plant on our garden which we're all really proud of, but it's quite susceptible to the elements. And in the middle of this hailstorm, our gardeners were using their bodies to physically shield it, to protect it. And you get to see how much these people, gardeners, the RHS, truly care about this. And we've learned thousands of stories about the horticultural battles that they have against moths and caterpillars and the elements and stuff. It's quite a beautiful thing to see them in life. So yeah, we're all ready for Monday now, and hopefully pray for good weather.
So the festival starts on Monday. So and that's great. And it's great to hear how the whole team has got involved with this. So this year, because you did a pilot last year, this is your not pilot, but you did first year last year, and you learned a lot inevitably in the first year.
Yeah.
And this year's part of the broader idea called Flourish and City, which you beautifully teased the tagline there earlier on. How did that come together, and how does it connect with the broader mission and what you're trying to say to clients about the kind of firm that you are?
So I guess looking at this from a marketing angle, we know we have seconds for people to engage with your message and try and remember it. We know from billboard theory, there's the 2-second rule. People are walking past it. If it's not simple, if it's not emotive, no one's going to remember it. So we knew no one was going to sit and read 3 paragraphs about us other than our most staunch clients, I guess. And so we just wanted to try and encapsulate what is it that we're really trying to do here. And again, it comes back to, we just want to help in any way we can to our clients to flourish and grow in the city and beyond. And so Flourish in the City became this beautiful, simple, memorable message. And we've built the entire campaign around it, from billboards that just say Flourish in the City. Our garden next week is the Addleshaw Goddard Flourish in the City garden. Last year, our garden was the Addleshaw Goddard Freedom to Flourish garden. So everything is joined up around this simple message. And then it more in I guess, client conversations, we articulate, we don't just talk about flowers and hydrangea and the like, but we help them flourish by helping them comply with regulations, by helping them, deploy bond issues, whatever their needs are in the city. We will do our utmost to help them deliver those, and we'll help them flourish and grow in whatever that means for them.
And as you say, you're really committed to this across different media types we teased earlier on. So it's a proper integrated campaign. You signed this long-term agreement with the first ever legal partner of the Chelsea Flower Show, which is fantastic, and it's inspirational for all the right reasons, and it's got an amazing vibe around it and joy that associates with it. But B2B marketing is often a pressurized world, right? We're pressurized to deliver quarterly results, and it's a big commitment to do something like this over multiple years. So, how do you make that case, and how do you demonstrate or unlock the value of that kind of investment has required?
So we could talk about measurements and some of the results we found, but I guess just coming back to this long-termism, the long-term nature of this campaign. So I guess just to qualify what we do, this is just one of hundreds of initiatives we have during the year, thousands of bits of content for 50 different parts of the firm. This is perhaps the biggest campaign that we do. So that we're embracing similar tactics of the other marketer that's listening to this. But this is one of the centerpiece jewels in the crown. And we know that brands aren't built overnight. It takes years to form strong bonds, strong memories. And so, from that sense, we knew we needed long-term tactics as well as some short-term stuff. The average life cycle of most of our big client relationships is 20, 25 plus years. We've had a couple of clients for over 100 years, I believe. So there's a long-term nature of the law. Most partners in a law firm are there for decades. And so inherently they're partners in law firms have got a much more long-term view of this. You don't just win a client overnight and they sack their current law firm and give you all their instructions. It doesn't work that way. So the firm here was very bought into this idea. There's a lot of short-term things that we do, immediate jump on this legal announcement, jump on this piece of taxation change, whatever it might be. But we wanted this long-term piece, and we can talk about the measurement, but we have tactics to measure what are the immediate impacts of a sponsorship like this, and then what are the long-term brand perception shifts, and we're trying to measure both immediate opportunities and longer-term behavioural change.
And then the comparison, I guess, thinking about this comparison with something like F1 is pretty spurious, right? Because F1, if you're sponsoring something, you're looking at getting, it's broadcast around the world. You're looking at getting, your brand in front of people within the multiple stadiums, the people watching it on TV and reading the magazines and looking at all that kind of stuff. Whereas actually, as well as there is that exposure, that visibility, but about people who are coming, but you're also inviting people as well. That's what you're saying. You're getting, it's opportunity for you to spend time with your prospects and your clients in that moment. And have all the positivity that comes from that. So, it's still sponsorship, but it's a different vibe or different whole model, commercial model than something like F1 or rugby might be, for example.
I guess, and I know because we've got a sports sponsorship too, and I won't lie, we do a lot of sports work. What we typically do when we're looking at marketing campaigns for our markets around the world, we'll pick the right mix for that market. And in some markets, it's far more dominant sport activity that we do. We do thought leadership everywhere, but back to this one. We find that when you're doing a sponsorship, we're always looking for some element of it that would always give you client contacts. I won't do anything if it doesn't facilitate that, but it's also got to be a platform to build your brand. So I guess my advice to anybody else, any other marketers doing this, is when you're looking at sponsorships, look for both the in-person contact and the brand building. But Chelsea's been perfect for that client contact.
And ultimately you can look at that in a commercial model. It becomes a full funnel type of activity, doesn't it? Right?
Absolutely.
So it's not just my
Truly, it really is, though. It really is, yeah.
So you're not just you can demonstrate the impact by the nature of that relationship starting or continuing or rejuvenating or whatever.
Yep.
And am I right in thinking you ran 57 events in a single week? Is that correct?
Yeah, and we've way more than that next week. Yeah, so when we say events, some of these are much bigger parties. A lot of them are much more smaller, intimate, VIP lunches or breakfasts. And one of the beautiful things, if anybody does a sponsorship, as a sponsor, you get access to things that others can't. And so for us at Chelsea, it means we get access to the show before it opens in the mornings. We get access to it in the evenings when everyone else has gone home, and you've got, I mean, it's absolutely, if you haven't been, it's utterly stunning, right? It's the Olympics of the gardening world. It's been referred to as the greatest show in Earth, which I thought was a beautiful line, but it really is. You know, the gardeners come from all over the world. It's the pinnacle. Getting a gold at Chelsea, it's like winning the Olympic 100 metres gold. It's like that for gardeners, and you know, it's just a beautiful place to host people. Yeah, so we had, I think last year, about 400 VIP guests joined us, a few ambassadors, some lords and dames, but mainly clients. And this year, quite some way north of that figure are coming. It's really popular, popular.
It sounds amazing. And I've experienced it once, so I think it's such a great place for a conversation, isn't it? So.
And do you know what's nice about it is I had a friend's birthday party last week, and we stopped at a few pubs along the way, but we did a long walk along the River Thames, and you really open up when you're walking and talking out in the environment. I don't know what it is. There must be some psychology, but it's just a beautiful place for a conversation, and I think Chelsea has that. So we were with clients for between about 3 and 7 hours each last year. And if I could tell one little anecdote, I won't name names, but we had a couple of guys, very senior people in a very major fund, and one of our partners had twisted their arm to come along, and they came along, and I got chatting to them, and you know, we give behind the ropes access, you get them onto the gardens and into some special places, and they said to me, we're not really sure this is our cup of tea, we don't really do gardening, and a couple of lovely guys, and we said, well, have a glass of rosé with us and hang around, and see what we did, and 5 hours later, they're still with us and say, "This is amazing." You know, look, we had such good fun with those guys, and you know, we were really grateful they came. But I think, yeah, it changes people's mind, and just being out in nature, around by flowers, and having a glass of bubbly or something.
It's inherently very human, isn't it? Right? You're all enjoying the same thing.
Yeah. And if it rains, we will get the brollies out, and in that British sense of we'll get through this.
Yeah, it's good fun. So I mean, I've kind of tried to ground it in that kind of bottom middle funnel kind of client engagement type experience, but of course, you know, you did go hard, you know, within the City of London. So, you know, 19 print digital billboards at Bank and London Bridge, a flower painted billboard at London Bridge Station, handing out flowers and sea packs to commuters, and a flower themed lounge at a major legal tech conference, a highly targeted LinkedIn campaign. It sounds like you threw the kitchen sink at it. I mean, in a nice way, right? There was a lot of different. No one in the city missed that, presumably.
Well, we're going to keep on going just to make sure they don't miss it. But yeah, so, you know, you've got to do everything you can to turn heads and win that precious attention. People are busy. They've got other things on their mind. And so, yeah, we've been experimenting, and what works, what doesn't work. And you name it, we tried it. It was actually a marketer that coined the phrase, "say it with flowers," over a century ago. And we're just kind of taking that old marketing philosophy forward to this century, and a billboard's planted with actual flowers and handing out bouquets to city workers. We've done a video at the moment imagining what the city would be like if there were flowers all up the walls of the Royal Exchange and the Bank of England and the Gherkin and stuff. Yeah, we're actually launching next week a book for kids that we're gifting to clients that have kids, about a little boy that flourishes in the city. So flowers, as it turns out, nasturtiums and anemones are quite a good channel to market, we're finding. So, being serious, we all know how fragmented media is, and people consume it in different ways. And some people walk past billboards, some look at social media, some listen to podcasts. We're just trying to be in the right places just with flowers.
And it's a great starting point. I guess it's kind of a catalyst, or it's a horrible way of kind of commoditizing nature, but I don't want to sound like being cliched, full of sorry, let me start that one again. It sounds like having flowers as your starting point, having the beauty and nature starting point is just a brilliant way of sparking new ideas, right, amongst the team, and you could execute that in a million different ways, and it's clearly what you're demonstrating.
Yeah, it's really wholesome, and everyone can relate to them. I mean, we're professional marketers, so some of this might sound cold to people that are outside of the marketing profession, but we've got to do whatever it takes to, I think, legitimately, authentically earn a bit of attention from people. You know, we need them looking at what we have to say. And when you come through, we've got a tunnel takeover at Bank Tube stations, 200 meters from here. You know, I think we had something like 5 million person footfall just with those ads alone last year. When you're walking through a tunnel and there's 16, 17 massive billboards that are just flowers on your morning commute, you can't not notice it.
Yeah.
It's just because it's so unusual, and seeing huge, massive pink dahlias and huge blue hydrangea. I think I genuinely am biased, but I think it's been bright. You know, we've had a lot of feedback. It's brightened up people's morning commute. It's just a beautiful thing to look at. And then the science of it is we put the logo right in line sight, you know, where it was unmissable. So you know, there were good reasons why we did it, and then there were hard marketing communications cut-through reasons, because I'm held to generating a return from this. So,
well, that's a very good segue. We should talk about what it actually delivered. And in terms of brand visibility, client engagement, and commercial outcome, you know, how are you measuring it, both in the short term and the longer arc of the partnership?
So short term, we have some specific goals about getting really good time with both existing clients of the firm that we want to thank for their business. Of course, we're a business we want to grow, and there's some new people we want to attract. So there's a very specific goal about a certain number of people, a certain profile of people, and introducing more partners from different parts of our firm to them to grow our relationship for the future. So that was an immediate goal. Over time, you should be able to measure, and we have been able to, some dividends from those connections that are formed. And then there's the longer term brand piece, where in the first instance, you know, we just want to make sure, is it getting seen by the right people in the right places? And we can kind of track that. You know, we all know this very specifically from LinkedIn. We can track what percentage of the people have the right job titles, the right business types. We can track increased amount of search behavior for the firm, increased visits to our website, which went up quite substantially last year, despite ChatGPT and Perplexity taking traffic away from websites. And then, and this one, we've done a benchmark now, and then we've got another benchmark in a couple of years where we want to look at long-term shifts in people's perceptions of us. And so there's short-term, and then there's long-term, and you know, it's quite hard to measure some of this. It's a lot of work, but you can measure it.
And I guess obviously some of those conversations won't pay dividends until for a long period of time. But tell me about marketing generally, and in terms of how it's run at Addleshaw Goddard, because you have a bit of a license to be, you have this, like, you're unusual as a client-side marketer. You have a license to be creative, and you demonstrate that repeatedly, and you have a track record of it, and you're widely admired for doing that. How does that ROI conversation work within your organization? What information can you share me about how you measure success and how you prove success to the pen pushers of the numerate people at the top of the organization?
So it doesn't come overnight. I've got the battle scars of trying to push too hard with creativity and businesses too quickly, and getting kicked out of boardrooms and the like. I think, so we start slow, just slightly better copywriting, slightly more high impact visuals, and then layer on as people say, actually, this is quite good. And you know, you can almost always see tangible results when you do an A/B test on a more creative thing and a less creative thing, that the more creative thing gets more reads, more downloads, more event attendees. So we built up small and did A/B tests and proved to people the wheels don't come off when you try it, and actually you get such better client feedback, and people go, oh, this is quite good. What else have you got? And there's a point I found in every business I've worked in where if you push that creativity, there becomes a point, there's a tipping point where people go, we really quite like this, let's not go backwards. And then they start challenging, well, what else have you got? And at that point, wow, then
The brakes come off.
The brakes come off, and you can really, really go for it. I mean, there's all sorts. I have shared, there's a lot of education we've put in over the years with partners here and other places where we show them the academic reports on the value of creativity. So the Burnett and Field research, the System 1 research, whatever. We'll share that academia with people so people know there's rigor, but people witness it. And we've done other things where if somebody wants to publish something that I don't think cuts that we'll stand out and we'll read it out loud, and people go, oh yeah, it's actually quite dry. Who's going to want to pay attention? Little things like, if you show people a bit of creative, don't just let them dwell on it, just flash it past their eyes and say, what do you remember from that? Because people walk past this stuff or they thumb through it on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of tricks of the trade, but I also genuinely just pay a bit of respect to the partners here. It's a culture that they're very, very innovative bunch, and I feel lucky that I found a place that is up for it as well. So I think we've contributed to that, but they're also a good bunch. So.
In fact, it does sound like you found a home, having known you for a while. Yeah, it sounds like you found it. It's lovely to see. It's a place where you could, pardon the pun, flourish. But you've got an unusual structure in that you have, so you're head of marketing, right? And then there's this kind of we're talking earlier on, a lady who kind of works more directly with the board. Tell us about that structure.
Yeah, so I guess coming back to Chelsea, maybe as one example, we overshot our target for the amount of people we hope would come and spend time with us by 60%. Last year there was hundreds and hundreds, and again it's quite a long way north of that this year that are joining us next week. In terms of then the more immediate work that we want. So we entertain existing clients worth tens of millions of pounds, and we hopefully strengthen those relationships. They all continue to still come to us, which is great news. And then we won about 40 brand new clients and major pieces of work from them last year. And I can't share the incremental growth, but there was quite a lot of fairly substantial growth. So I think we paid back the entire investment in the campaign within 3 months, and within 9 months, I think we were about 350% ROI. And it's still growing, right? Because these are hopefully now lifetime clients for us, not just one-time clients. So
that's it works then, the things.
Yeah, we're really delighted, and and again, we go again next week and again next year, because this is a long-term commitment for us. So
brilliant. Okay, so a couple of questions to close. Javon, I could talk to you for all day, but we've only the podcast's going to be so long, unfortunately. So if you had to boil all of this down for B2B marketers listening, most of whom won't be sponsoring Chelsea for different reasons, what are the transferable lessons? What do you think the experience tells us about distinctiveness, the in-person experience, and what good marketing looks like in 2026?
I actually wrote some notes because we had spoken about this before, and I wanted to make sure I added value to anyone listening to marketing. So I think there were 2 or 3 things that really stood out for me. I think some people have this tendency to talk about performance marketing versus brand, or ABM versus brand, and there's no versus. We're not in school. It's both, and we have account-based activity in this and brand building, and I think they work best when they're together and integrated, not separate. So that's I truly passionately believe that. I wouldn't classify myself in either any camp. I think there's been a lesson for us that you can't really turn the dial, increase the sales or the returns in a one-hit thing. So this is a long-term commitment for us. I mean, we've trying to do creative things on everything we do, and we have been for years, but this particular campaign, we think the returns will compound, and I think it's just a lesson for repetition.
It's consistency and repetition.
Repetition. We've been in London as a firm since 1902. We've been committed to helping people grow in this market since then. We're just now, it's our turn to hold the baton, and we're really trying to push that. But we're not moving away from this Flourish in the City platform. So we've got a long-term relationship with the RHS. And I guess then there's one last thing, which it is really, really hard to stand out from the crowd. Really hard. It's a lot of work. It takes creativity. But I think it's the harder to replicate stuff is the stuff that actually stands out. I think this is going to be hard for somebody else to do, like we've done with flowers. They may do it with the arts or Formula One perhaps, but I think I think it's that hard work and that we've used AI in this campaign, but you can't just rely on AI to really stand out. So there's been a few things. Those are some of the big lessons.
It is interesting that despite that there is sponsorship as a well-trodden path, but there are still huge properties like RHS Chelsea Flower Show where there was a gaping hole, right? So,
there are, and I just to share, I spoke to about 30 rights holders and went and visited them, sponsorship properties, before we picked the RHS. There are a lot out there. I probably get approached on about one a week. Once you become known, you're a sponsor of something, the floodgates open. Classic, LinkedIn request stuff. But there's a lot out there.
So last question. If there's one thing you want B2B marketing leaders or just people in more executional management roles to take away from this conversation about how to build trust, brand and commercial outcomes in their own organizations, what would it be? And where can listeners go and find out more about your Flourish in the City campaign?
So I guess I've got two answers to that question, and the same ones I've had in the last 30 years. Stay as close to your clients as you possibly can is the only way is the best way of building trust and relationships. Yeah. If clients aren't at the heart of everything, I know it's a trite, easy thing to say, but it means speaking to them at every opportunity, spending as much time with them as possible. That for me would be, there's a lot of synthetic research that is great, but there's still the pinnacle is going out and having a coffee with a client. And as marketers, whenever we come to events, I try and go to as many as I can and actually just chat house business. Don't need to talk about work, and it's invaluable. So, I'm going to be spending time with hundreds of clients next week. Can't wait. It is invaluable, and AI, I don't think will ever quite top that. And the second one for me, and sorry, this has been marketing mantra I didn't coin this. It's been around for 40 years, but zig don't zag.
Yeah,
it's the golden rule, right? Anyone forgets that, woe betides them. So
exactly. Brian, always fascinating to talk to you. Congratulations on this blooming relationship with RHS. So I didn't prepare that one, honestly. And it was great to talk to you. So thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, buddy.
Good to see you. If you've enjoyed this conversation, there's this podcast episodes are released weekly on audio and video. Please subscribe or like. We'd love you to hear more of this. There's a great conversation to the archive around trust in B2B. But for now, thanks for listening and goodbye.